and welcome to my channel. My name is Yelena if we haven't met already, and if we already have, then welcome back. Today I'm super excited to be bringing episode 2 of my Spiritual Awakening series, and today we're going to be talking all about some spiritual awakening symptoms that are relatively common and that I have actually experienced myself. We are going to be going through 8 of these symptoms, and I'll give you some advice, I'll share some stories, and yeah, if you guys have any questions, leave them down in the comments box below. Make sure you tap that subscribe button for lots more spiritual and spiritual awakening plus astrology content coming your way. Let's go ahead and get into it. Alright, first I want to get some things cleared up. So there are a couple different types of awakenings, and what I'm going to be discussing in this video is a spiritual awakening, which is an awakening of the heart center, which is the heart chakra. And this opens us up to more love, more compassion, more sensitivity, and deeper feelings and connection with our inner world, our emotions, which in turn helps us to heal and helps us do all kinds of things on the exterior as well, because we do learn through a spiritual awakening that our physical reality, the reality that we live in, the things that we see outside of ourselves are nothing but a reflection of our inner world. So that is what a spiritual awakening is, and we are going to be getting into the symptoms of that. It is very different from that of a Kundalini awakening, which is awakening a dormant energy at the base of the spine. That is very different. That creates a lot of different symptoms, and I am not speaking to that, or a psychic awakening, which is an awakening of Ajna chakra, which is the third eye, which brings a lot of psychic abilities. For the sake of today's video, this is about the heart opening. So it is believed that what a spiritual awakening actually is the disconnection, not 100%, because we do still need this to exist in this material reality that we live in, but a disconnection of the false ego, which is something that runs us through most of our lives, and that's that I identification. We identify with our thoughts, and we identify with everything in this material reality, which then in return causes us a lot of suffering. So what this is, it helps us to release the tight grip that we have on this material reality, everything that we are so attached to very much, to release and surrender so that our higher self, or the divine, the universe, whatever you want to call it, can then be brought down into our body to guide us on this journey, on this spiritual path that we're on, which will in return help us to step more into our mission and our purpose, the reason that we are here. Now, the Taoists used to refer to this aspect of the mind as the acquired mind, because this is something that is conditioned and developed throughout our entire life from the time that we're born. We are raised by people who are influencing the way that we think, our behaviors, and really conditioning us to have the personality that we have, that we then come to realize is not who we actually are. Wow, I know, that's a lot, a lot going on in this process, and it really is, and that is exactly why we want to discuss the symptoms, because there can be a lot of them, and it can be a very, very confusing thing. It can be disheartening if you have no idea what it is that you're going through. Okay, so I'm very excited to lead us into the 8 symptoms of a spiritual awakening. Starting with number 1, which I like to title emotional overload. And yes, it is just that, an overload, an outpouring of emotions. Now, first I want to explain to you why this is even happening in the first place. So, it is said that we have 4 layers of our body. Now, 3 of those layers of the body, they're actually intangible, invisible, not anything that we can just touch or see with the naked eye, that are outside of our physical layer of the body, which is the only tangible element. So we've also got the emotional body, we've got the mental body, and we have the spiritual body that lies outside of that. So what is happening in this spiritual awakening process is that our emotional body is becoming unclogged. Yes, unclogged. That can be kind of confusing. So let me explain this a little bit further. Now, as we go through our life, from birth, even actually the childbirthing experience is a trauma in itself. So we go through life and we have a lot of emotional things happen to us. We have a lot of traumas that we experience that clog up that emotional body, and they can make us act in irrational ways. It can cause all different types of behavioral problems and blockages in our lives that are actually preventing the spiritual awakening process from happening. Now, sometimes it is just divinely prompted and the spiritual awakening process snap happens, and these traumas that are stored in the body are starting to release. We are starting to have all of these things come up to the surface, which sometimes can be repressed memories and things that we don't even remember happened to us, that we are all of a sudden, the floodgates have opened and it is time for us to heal and take a look at all of these things. And this can sometimes be referred to as like the dark night of the soul, which are difficult aspects, difficult phases of the spiritual awakening process that we must go through. Now, all of these things do serve an overall very positive and important role in this entire process, because if we don't have this emotional body cleared and have done a lot of healing on it, then we can't move forward with this process. Now, all emotions are energy and motion, and all of these traumas are stored in the body. I'm actually reading a pretty interesting book right now, if this is any topic that you're interested in, and it's called The Body Keeps the Score. And it's all about holding trauma in the body and how it can make a huge impact in our lives in a negative way. It causes behaviors that you would never know would be related to that root of the trauma that once experienced. But this process is all about helping us to heal from these deep-rooted problems. So what happens is this opens us up to a whole host of different emotions and sensations, and we become a whole heck of a lot more emotional. You might notice yourself just starting to cry over anything. And this doesn't have to be tears of sadness. These can be tears of joy. I swear, I go through periods of this. So I'll reach a homeostasis and then I'll go through another emotional period, which is usually when I notice I'm starting to purge a little bit more, and I will notice myself crying over just about anything. I go through periods of watching those dodo bird dog videos on my cell phone, and I'm just like bawling about dog rescue stories. Or if I notice somebody speaking passionately about something, I'll just start bawling my eyes out. And it doesn't necessarily make a whole heck of a lot of sense as to why you're crying, but just know that you are coming into tune more with your inner emotions and other people, and this interconnectedness, this feeling of just bliss that you're experiencing, which may be very new to you, and that's okay. It's okay. We should embrace it. So what this does, I want to wrap up this first point, but what this does, it may awaken us to the fact that we are empaths. And empaths are very, very special people who may think of it as a curse at first, but it is truly a gift to have this empathetic feeling towards another person, where you're able to actually feel what another person feels. You can literally put yourself in their shoes. And sometimes this means that you can feel their pain, you can feel their emotions, and that's why you might think of it as a curse at first, because it can be very, very much off-putting when you experience that of another, and something that you're not necessarily expecting to have to feel or go through. But it can really be a gift when you can tap in to that and learn to use it to help other people, which will come later on in your awakening process. But let's move on to symptom number 2, identity crisis. Now, these things may seem scary, but I just want to be completely open and honest with you about some of the things that I have actually been through, not just one time, but a few times. And this identity crisis is something that I notice happening a couple times now. It's almost as if when you seem to find out a little bit more of who you are, you start to realize that you've evolved again and that you are still unsure as to who you really are. So let me get into this just a little bit deeper so you have a better understanding. As I explained earlier, the spiritual awakening will push you into developing your purpose and what you are here to help humanity with. We're all here for a very specific and important role that we agreed to play. And before we can do that, we must know thyself. And I mean truly know thyself, so that we can know exactly who we are, what our gifts are, how we can help other people. And yeah, it's a very difficult but important process. Now, as I explained, we have this conditioning, and we have been indoctrinated since we were younger. And, you know, just growing up in the families that we grew up in, the schools that we went to, the religious institutions that we took part in, even the groups of friends that we've been around. Maybe there have been many groups of friends. Maybe you've had the same friends group since you were younger. And what happens throughout this process is that all of this conditioning and this identity that you have constructed begins to crack, and it begins to peel. So you've got all of these layers that need to be peeled back. Now, these can be so many different things, and that is why it creates this sort of identity crisis, because you're like, okay, I don't like the same music as I did before. I don't even like to do the same activities. Before, I used to like to binge watch series on Netflix with my friends. We used to have a night where we would all watch Game of Thrones together, and now I just want nothing to do with TV. I don't even really care to watch it at all or have it in my house. You may have liked to go out a lot. That was me. I really enjoyed going to electronic music shows and going out dancing with my girlfriends, having cocktails, doing all these things. And these are just things that I have completely grown out of. I don't enjoy doing them anymore. It doesn't bring me the same pleasure. It actually really brings me down and makes me feel bad. And there can be so many other things. You might not relate to the people that you have in your life anymore. And this could be difficult because this might be best friends or like family members. And you just start to think, how in the world am I going to get myself around and out of this, you know? It can be kind of disheartening. So you go through this period of an identity crisis, and it can be very difficult. But just hang in there, because if you agree to follow the path and follow these little urges and these signposts and the way that you feel and the way that you're being directed, then it will take you to a point where you will learn more about yourself. I promise you that. But just be prepared that this could happen more than once. Let's go ahead and move on to symptom number 3, and this is increased sensitivity. This can be somewhat related to the emotion overload, which was number 1. But this is a little bit different because this relates to all of your senses. And what I like to call this is energy sensitivity. So for me, I have felt like my psychic abilities with clairsentience, I believe it's called, and that is psychic ability of feeling. So I'm able to, like I said earlier, have strong empathetic abilities of being able to feel other people's emotions, but I can also really feel and sense into other people's energies in general. So you can actually kind of read other people's energy fields, which helps you to become a lot more discerning with the people that you surround yourself with. You're able to kind of read what other people's intentions are and kind of see right through any facade that somebody might be putting up for you. But overall, this really increases that sensitivity, and you might not really know what to do with that because it kind of might throw you off guard. This very well may have been something that you previously numbed out. And that could be anything from taking drugs or alcohol, or I don't know, whatever it is that you use to kind of numb out these things or distract yourself, or maybe any type of escapist tendencies so that you don't have to feel these sensitivities and feel deeply. And you will, throughout the spiritual awakening experience, be so urged by your higher self or whatever that divine calling is, that inner feeling, to not do that anymore and to feel into it and almost use it as an indicator. Use it as a tool to guide you in your life. And you will learn, I promise you will learn how to harness these energies better and use them properly. One more little example. So a lot of times when I am speaking to someone, maybe trying to help them with something, or they're asking me for advice or whatever it might be, and I say something to them, I will get chills all over my body, which I have learned to know that this is an indicator that I am right on the right path. I've given them correct information. Keep going in that direction. With this increased sensitivity, you will be very sensitive at first to other people's energy, and this can make you very susceptible to what is called psychic vampirism. And sure, you've heard of a psychic vampire or an energy vampire, somebody that when you're around them, they completely drain your energy. Now, believe it or not, you will become strong enough to be around these types of people, although you probably will choose not to. But if you are ever in a situation where you find yourself with a psychic or energy vampire, you will eventually be able to develop the tools and develop the skills to know how to turn it off so that they don't completely zap you. And this sensitivity leads me directly into symptom number 4, which is solitude. Sometimes loneliness, but solitude, which can be known as the hermit phase of the spiritual awakening process. And what happens is we develop this desire to almost alienate ourselves, be in solitude, be alone in quiet, so that we're able to kind of rest and recharge the body, because we are taking in so much stimulation, and our sensitive and our spiritual and emotional bodies are all turned on, and we can feel so much more than we've ever been able to. So it takes a lot more time for us to process this. We need a lot of alone time. We are also in a major learning phase of this spiritual awakening process, where we're taking in so much information, and without the proper time for us to process and then integrate this information, we can get very, very ungrounded and unbalanced, and almost as if we're up in the clouds and we can't harness and bring that down into this material existence. And it can make us very spacey, and it can cause a lot of issues in our lives. So this solitude, this time alone, is extremely important. Now, this is another one for me that has happened a couple of different times, and I'm actually going through a solitude period right now, which I've actually really learned to enjoy. I love my alone time, and I'm so very grateful that I've learned to really enjoy my own company, which is another gift that you probably will get in this process. Now, you could also be forced to be alone in solitude if you have a fear of being alone. This could be part of your awakening process as well, because we're purging a lot of different fears and things like that. So that might be something that you are urged to work on. Now, for me, another problem was feeling alone even amongst a group of people. I felt very disconnected from other people. My interests, my values, my belief systems were not matching up to the people that I was surrounding myself with. So even when I was surrounded by friends, we would be going out, and everybody appeared to be having so much fun, I would feel very alone, which, you know, can be very disconcerting, and you don't know why. But that is just another indication that it might be time to go into hermit phase and really do some processing so you can learn more about yourself. This is when you do self-reflection, to learn more, to look at your behaviors, to look at the people and the things that you're surrounding yourself with, to see where these shifts need to be made. So solitude, once again, is an extremely important part of the spiritual awakening process. So when this comes, don't push it away. Make sure you take the time to do so. But on a side note, we do want to make sure that we're not alienating ourselves. So if this is a process that you've been in, and you tend to be a person who really enjoys being alone, like myself, make sure you're not alienating yourself for extended periods of time with absolutely no human contact, because that can be detrimental to you as well. All right, on to number 5. You will feel an extreme urgency to purge. I know that might sound kind of crazy, but this whole spiritual awakening process is all about purifying ourselves so that we can become that authentic version of who we truly are. It's part of that peeling back the layers process. And we go through these cycles of purging, almost to the point where you're like, how in the heck do I have anything else left to purge deep inside of me? But you do. There are things deep down inside of you that will keep coming up. These could be things like old limiting beliefs, patterns that no longer serve us, or maybe it's, like I said, the people that we're surrounded by, maybe old groups of friends or family members that are holding you back, that no longer serve you, that might be a negative influence in your life. This could also be things, like material things. I'll tell you one thing. I went through a very big cycle of spiritual awakening, purge, where I realized that my identity was tied up a lot with a lot of my material things. Because I truly did not know who I was, I would buy name brand things and I would wear them, and I believe it was maybe to make people believe that I was wealthier than what I was, or that I was cool because I had the latest whatever watch or purse. And I felt almost a sense of importance, I guess, or that it was filling some sort of internal void. And once I realized this, I came to a major realization during one of these psilocybin experiences. And excuse me, because psilocybin and magic mushrooms were a major part of my spiritual awakening process. And I'm not suggesting anyone does that, but if you want to learn more about my experience with that, tap this video above here on my spiritual awakening story. But back to that, I had come to this major epiphany that I was placing way too much emphasis on my identity with brands and like things, and that I had all of this stuff to fill this major void. So I decided to sell all of it and get rid of it and just keep like one or two of my favorite things and like see what that did. And it honestly was so liberating, you guys. I can't even explain or put into words what this did for me, but it just released such a big weight that was holding me back, and it freed up so much room for other things to come into my life. And it was difficult, that letting go process. And, you know, even after, I was like, did I do that right thing? But it was such a liberating experience. So that's exactly what I mean. You may make some crazy decisions to let go of things, and other people may think it's absolutely crazy, but you have to follow your heart. You have to follow your guidance and what you feel is best for you and your experience. All right, and before we move on from this one, I want to go back to how we were speaking about traumas in the body earlier. This might be part of the purging process. And I heard a spiritual teacher refer to it like this. I really liked the way that they explained it. They said to visualize all of these traumas, these old belief systems, outdated patterns and habits and things in our body as big ice chunks. And imagine how hard it would be for everything to flow in the body if you had these major ice chunks holding in place and they are not moving and they're stuck and they're frozen. And this spiritual awakening energy that comes through the body is like fire that melts that ice. It gets everything flowing so that we don't have these blockages, so that we're not having these behaviors stem from these ice chunks that are causing disturbances and wreckage in our lives. So really, it's a hard purification process. It can be daunting, but I promise you it's going to free up so much space for happiness and freedom in ways that you'd never believe were possible. All right, enough of that. Let's go ahead and move on to number 6, which is becoming a full-time researcher. And this is the seeking phase of spiritual awakening. And for me, this one has not ever permanently subsided in the almost 3.5 years that I have been awakening spiritually. But there have been periods when I have went down the rabbit hole a little too much. And really this whole process has helped me so much learning discernment and even just becoming more educated as it pertains to spiritual topics, occult topics that can really help me to develop myself and step more onto my path. So basically what I'm referring to is you are realizing on this path that reality is not as it seems. That we have been told one story and then we come to realize a completely different story. And you just want to research and learn and watch videos and read articles and just binge out on a lot of different topics, and you spend a lot of your time doing this. So all these old preferences and hobbies and things that you used to do take a major backseat so that you can now research and become a truth seeker, if you will. Now, like I said, this could lead you down some rabbit holes. And for me, not everybody will go through this, but for me, at the beginning, I went down a major conspiracy theory rabbit hole. Now, while I do truly believe that not all quote-unquote conspiracy theories are just that, conspiracy theories, I believe that there is truth to a lot of it, not all of it, you do have to kind of use discernment. And it's important to know the truth, and I don't like to be one that turns my cheek to anything that's valuable and important for me to know, even if it's of the darker nature. I do believe that it's important to kind of take in that information, really think about it, make a sound judgment as to what it is and what you believe, and then to leave it behind, because I don't think it's important to always have your energy focus on the negativity. I believe that we do have an influence on if things grow into something bigger. And that's why don't stay in the rabbit hole too long. I think that's what I'm trying to get at here. So that's just a suggestion there, not to get stuck in that aspect of it. But the seeking phase is very important. All right, let's go ahead and move on to number 7, which might be kind of confusing, but it's strengthening of the false ego. And if you are somebody who has knowledge and you're going through a spiritual awakening too, you might say, wait a minute, I thought that we were disconnecting from being so associated with the ego. And we are. That is very true. Of course, at first during a spiritual awakening, sometimes it can cause inflation of the ego. And it's actually what happens is the ego disconnects from its old attachments and it connects to its new identity, which is the spiritual person. Okay, and this person may have this God complex. That is something that I've seen happen, where they become the healer or, you know, the Almighty. I think I am a reincarnation of Jesus Christ, or whatever it might be. I honestly have seen that. Or, you know, you hear about it all the time. You've got spiritual teachers or gurus that make a bad name for the rest of them, because gurus are not bad. You know what I mean? They're teachers that help us develop. But you have those that have very bad reputations of being narcissistic and controlling and using their power in a negative manner. And that's kind of what this God complex is all about. And that is that person's own individual journey. I am not here to judge. I am not here to condemn that, because that's their own journey and they're working through their own things just like each one of us are. Another one is we get into this mindset that everything is all love and light, and we want to raise our vibration, and anything that's negative and any negative talk or anything like that just brings me down and I can't be around it. And I'll be completely open and honest with you guys. This is what this is all about. It's a learning experience. And if I can share my stories with you, it's not about shame or embarrassment. When I first started my awakening, there were some people in my life that maybe had a more negative way of thinking, or they like to gossip a lot and talk about other people. And I absolutely would not go around them. Absolutely not. They were bringing me down. I can't believe it. Absolutely no negative talk or anything like that. I just won't be around it. I am above that. And we almost like put ourselves up on this pedestal and believe that we are superior to others, or we are good. We are living this good lifestyle, you know, and they're bad. So we have to really watch out for this on the journey. And that is the strengthening of the ego. But one thing about this journey is more so for some than others, it is a crash, burn, and learn type of journey. And while that does not sound fun at all, and sometimes it's not, if we are in the false ego, it is now just attached to the spiritual persona, there will be experiences that are put into our lives to metaphorically knock us off of our horse a bit and bring us down to a level where we are experiencing that unity consciousness again, where we can relate to people on a healthier level, see everything more eye to eye, and realize that no one is more ahead of anyone else. Nobody is higher up, and we're able to reel ourselves in a notch. So just keep an eye out for these indications that you may be in your spiritual ego. And finally, my loves, number 8, you have a strong desire to live a healthier lifestyle. So old lifestyle choices may not resonate with you anymore. We've already kind of discussed this as it pertains to people that we surround ourselves with, or even activities that we used to do. But a lot of it may have to do with our food choices as well. These things that we decide to put in our bodies, old ways of eating. Either it might be an ethical choice, or because it doesn't feel right to us anymore, or because it might be producing some type of physical symptoms. You just have an overall sense of wanting to be healthier, wanting to be more fit. You may decide to pick up some type of physical practice. Like I dove really deep into yoga. I had a desire to get stronger and find a spiritual practice that was good for my mind and my body. And I have really started doing a lot of meditation and eating healthier. I've significantly reduced the amount of meat that I eat and dairy products. And when I first awakened spiritually, I felt a very strong desire to go vegan. And I did. But then I started to realize as the process went on that I was very wrapped up, spiritual ego, bringing that one back again, to being tied in with I'm vegan and meat eaters are bad. So you have to watch out for those types of complexes, just to bring that back in again. But also with the eating thing, really follow what your body wants in this moment. And a lot of these things can change seasonally, and what your body needs can change seasonally. So maybe what you need today is not what you'll need next week or next month or next spring for that matter. So just kind of intuitively follow what you feel you need and go with that. And thank you guys so very much. I hope this was beneficial for you. Like I said before, if you have any questions about any of these symptoms, please let me know in the comment box below. But I would really love for you to share some of your symptoms as well that you might be going through. So if you feel apt, please leave them below, because you might really be helping somebody else too. So let's try and open up some dialogue here. If you feel inclined, please share this video with your friends or family members. Tap that like button below, as well as hit subscribe, because I have a whole heck of a lot more content coming your way, all tied in with spirituality, astrology, and spiritual awakening. Thank you guys so very much. Sending so much love to you, and best of luck on this heart awakening journey. I'm here with you guys. Peace.